So it's two different teas put together. Dude, I'm not even joking. It has saved my life heading to a church on Sunday morning when I lost my voice.
Oh my gosh. What teas?
I can't remember the type, but any Starbucks across the whole country. I was just in California a few weeks ago, and they knew what it was.
Medicine ball.
And you literally just ask for the medicine ball, and bro, it like gives your voice back and everything.
It's straight drugs.
Yes.
It's the tea trade. The tea. The truth is in the tea.
You just ask for the medicine ball, and it's...
Okay. The guy comes out from the back. He's like a little shady, got a trench coat on. He's like, yeah, I got the good stuff.
Welcome back to the Ministry Without Hating It podcast, a ministry of Odyssey Haven coaching and counseling dedicated to the pursuit of answering the question, is it possible to do ministry without hating it? We have a theory that it just might be. Brenton.
Yes.
We are here kicking off season 4.
We are here. It is season 4.
It is season 4. Okay, so...
how did it get that fast?
Well, because you're getting older, and as you get older, everything gets faster. But I had a weird thought about this morning, knowing that we were going to be recording this today. And this is maybe a little bit look behind the curtain of podcasting or whatever. So we're kicking off season 4, but we're recording this like, what is it, 2 weeks from just ending because of our calendar and the way that everything works, and especially hopping into a new year after recording the one that we just ended, season 3. So it doesn't feel like quite yet that we've closed, at least to me.
There's one door that's still partially open while the other one is closing. Right. Yeah.
It's kind of one of those weird in-between things of like when I'm recording this, the year's not even over yet. In fact, we're not even halfway to Christmas yet. So I don't know. But hey, we're here. Yay, season 4. Woo! You know, I'm actually really excited about this next season and some of the conversations that we're going to get to have, and some of the things that we're going to continue to build on with the soul checks. We're going to do the shop talks again. We're looking forward to just jumping back in and letting our friends give us all their wisdom. So it'll be good.
And it's free this way.
And it's totally free to you, unless you want to give to support this growing ministry. Anyway, once again, listeners, thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for all the encouragement that you've given us along the way. We are excited as we move forward. And kicking off this season, we have our friend. You know him a little bit better than I do.
Yep.
But Jared Ballenger is here, and he works with Destiny Rescue, which we're going to get into and talk about a lot within this. But man, what a great conversation to start off, and not just speaking about what he does, but I love how he ties a lot of this practical application to ministry on all fronts, but also where we're at personally. Would you agree with that?
Yep.
Oh, fun another side note. I just got done telling Brenton, I've learned to not ask close-end questions, which is basically yes or no answer, because it kills the conversation. And I was trying to prod Brenton there, and he was just like...
Strategically, I said, yep. You're welcome.
It's great. So if you haven't fast forwarded yet, we're going to go ahead and get started with the interview now. And so we are delighted to kick off this season with a conversation with our friend, Jared Ballenger. Well, it is our privilege to welcome and to kick off our brand new season 4, with our friend, Jared Ballenger. Thank you for being here. Welcome.
Man, grateful to be here with you guys.
Awesome. The joke is we'll see if that continues all the way through. So we like to start with some questions that have nothing to do with ministry, yet somehow need to be asked and usually almost always still find their way into the ministry conversation. So Jared, describe yourself in 3 words.
Persistent for sure. That's how I have my job right now, with Destiny Rescue is persistent. Was about a 5-month process. So definitely persistent. Let me see here. Chill. I'm a pretty chill guy, which is apparently a cool thing to say now. Chill guy. I'm a chill guy.
Did it ever really go away? Did it,
I don't know. I don't think so. So
no.
I'm pretty chill. And then outgoing.
Okay.
So probably too outgoing sometimes.
All right. Hold on. I need to back up just a second because this is where the conflict comes in my brain. As an introvert, not outgoing, I have to really work myself into it, I think. So being chill and outgoing, how do those mesh?
Yeah. So the chill is when I am traveling, because I travel for work by myself. I'm very much introverted because not talking to anybody in the airports. I'm not, if I'm at a coffee shop working, I got both AirPods in, drinking coffee and working. And then I have, then when I get into situations where I get to where I'm going and I'm in the church or at a conference, I'm instantly, hey, I know that person. Let me go talk to them. I don't know them, but I want to know them. Let me go talk to them. And I can become this person that Pastor Bill tells me all the time, just have a way of connecting with people where it's not too much, but it's just that right level for that person to go, hey, like I got to know Jared and he's a super cool guy, or he's, fun to be around, or whatever that may be.
Okay.
So at conferences, like we've seen each other all at, at different district conferences or main connection or whatever. I love getting around and just meeting new people, wanting to get new people in my life and just be a part of that. But at the same time, when I go back to my hotel room or I go to the gym in the morning or go to the coffee shop, I'm very much super introverted, chill, and just kind of wanting to hang out by myself.
Interesting. I think you've given me a new way to define my own introvertness, if that's even a word. I just say, no, I'm just chill. I'm just chill. Because literally everything you just said, that's me. Like, I don't even want to make eye contact with somebody on an airplane because that's when a conversation happens. And who wants that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I want to sit next to the person that's talking. Like, just ask me one question. Give me an in so I can start. Because
Brenton, you have no chill. That's what they call that.
That's no chill.
You now have to sit at the back of the plane.
That is no chill. Yes.
Yeah, that's the worst spot. Like by the bathrooms. Terrible.
Oh boy. All right. Well, if that's where you're sitting right now listening to this, Brenton is praying for you. Yeah, he's praying for you. All right. If your life was captured in the expectation versus reality meme, what would the 2 pictures be? We haven't asked this one in a while, and I love this question.
Expectation picture would be all of my family, my wife and my 2 kids dressed up very nicely, behaving, no chaos at all in the picture, just nice family photo. The reality would be us in our currently tore down kitchen with ketchup bottle spilled over. My wife actually knocked over my daughter's amoxicillin this morning. That's mixed with like that bubblegum taste kind of thing.
Yummy.
So there was pink stuff all over this white table. Our dog's probably licking that up. That would be the reality picture of what's going on in our lives right now. God is good. He's faithful. But it's been an insane year. And so that would probably be like expectation. Everything's perfect. We're all prim and proper. And reality would be absolute chaos in our half kitchen right now.
Yeah. So that's probably affecting your chill a little bit.
Yes. Yeah.
Behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes, not so much chill for sure.
Yeah. How old are your kids?
8 years old and 6 years old.
Okay. So right in that fun space.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I think that's pretty much everybody. We all want that, that family photo or whatever. I've got one when our kids were very little. And they're 2 years, less than 2 years apart in between all of them. And my wife, Lindsay, was trying to pose them in front of this like fall setting kind of a thing. And like one of my kids is facing backwards. Another one is like fighting with the other one. And the other one's just like, completely checked out off or whatever. And I'm like, That's the Christmas card. That's the one that should go out because that's the actual representation of reality and what's actually going on. I love that.
That's like what we did. We go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, it's like the J.C. Penney pictures versus you want the nice picture and you get the J.C. Penney, like the weird one where everyone's
exactly. For our announcement for my daughter, so my daughter is 6, my son is 8, so for like the announcement picture of like, hey, Lauren's pregnant, is we did on our couch, I'm sitting there drinking a cup of coffee, my wife has like a jar of peanut butter, bags of chips, all this, stuff next to her. And then we have our son right in the middle, and he's only not even 2 at the time. And he is just mouth open wide, screaming, crying. And that's the picture we use to announce like, hey,
that's awesome.
We're having a baby. And to get our son to cry like that, we gave him the jar of peanut butter. And then we took it away from him to get the picture really quickly.
So it was a little bit staged, but...
Yes, a little bit staged, but,
That's funny. Well, though, as we enter in, and so just to timestamp this for everybody, so we're recording this in December, but this is coming out in January into the new year. So maybe in this new season, we get to actually embrace reality and let go of some of the, even if it's staged reality, right? Is that
yes,
what
exactly.
you got there? So... Okay, so in the sense of new year, a lot of simplifying, decluttering sometimes for people, right? So if you could only keep 5 apps on your phone, which ones make the cut? And I'll give you bonus points if you can get down to 3.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's rough. Okay.
And, here's the other preface too. Like, I won't count the ones that are already baked into whatever phone you have. Does that make sense?
Okay, so like phone app and texting and email.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. So I got those. That's all good. I would say because of travel, my Delta app, my Hilton app, and
wow, interesting.
Let me see here.
So he's already at 2.
So that's 2. I probably should, I think
I know where you're going.
Should have probably said Bible app first.
You know what though? We asked Gary Donahue this. I remember this, and he didn't even list it, and I was like, I'm not going to even silently judge you that you didn't list the Bible app. He goes, I don't use that. I use the analog. He uses the paper. Yeah,
I love it.
So I was like, all right, that's kind of cheating, but all right.
So Bible app. So that's 3. Gosh. I'm not gonna be able to stay at 3 because I need
that's fine. Okay. Yeah, you need it.
I like to have my Instagram app. And then let me see.
Is that
here.
because you have to follow your wife's account because she does all the photography and like I'm a good husband, support you in everything you do?
I do definitely support her and everything, but I also like just like doing to Instagram stories of, where I've been, what I'm doing, and connecting with other, whether it be other pastors and speakers or, people that I follow or whatever. So definitely that. And then let's stick to, let me see here. Okay. The 5th one, probably trying to think what I use every day. It's hard to think about. I would say my Planet Fitness app. I have to have that to be able to even get into the gym. So
interesting.
That one. So that's all 5.
All right.
Because I already have the texting and all that, I can, we're good.
I may have given you a lifeline there, and that's fine. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
All right, so let's pivot from this a little bit then. What do you find exciting, or what are you looking forward to, especially as we move into this new season, new year?
Yeah, I think right now my wife and I we've been on this debt-free track this year,
Yeah.
and by the end of 2025 we'll be debt-free. So
Get it.
we are kind of looking forward to that. Really excited about that. But there's also some life change coming. Just a few months ago, Destiny Rescue asked us if we'd be willing to relocate as an opportunity, and been strongly considering that and have made our decision. And so we're going to be doing that at the end of 2025 as well. Not
Oh,
till
wow.
November. We're looking at November. But
And you're
part
where are
of
you at right now currently for
I'm
people who don't know?
in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Okay.
And so that's where I'm at currently. Attend LifeBridge Church with Pastor Bill Campbell.
Yes, friend of the podcast, been on before.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And so part of that church here, but we'll be going to Southern Missouri
Oh,
in November of 2025. And as a young kid, not a young, maybe a young kid, was a teenager, lived in Branson, Missouri for about 3 years. And so we're looking forward to that, but also it's a big change that as a family, it's one of those where you're just
Yeah.
like, man, super unsure because you don't want to mess your kids up. But at the same time, you still want to follow what God has planned. And
yeah.
and so we're just trying to do the best we can at that. So
Wow.
we're pretty excited about that as well.
I've
Wow.
relegated that. I know I'm going to mess my kids up and I'm just going to pay for their therapy later.
Oh, wow.
We're going to do our best along the way, but I've got a fund started like, hey, let's start thinking about this now.
There's so many different ways I can respond to that right now. But to keep it full circle, I'm just going to say no chill, Brenton. No chill.
No chill.
No chill. No chill. Well, so talk about you mentioned just a little bit now with some of your ministry and that kind of thing. Tell us how you found yourself where you're at right now, what you're even doing, and maybe work backwards a bit as far as your ministry story.
Yeah, man. So I was raised in church all my life, since I was just a little kid. Was born in Franklin, Indiana. Lived in Greenwood as a kid, and then moved to the west side of Indianapolis, to the Brownsburg, Claremont area.
Okay. Yeah.
And lived there as a young kid. And my parents has a pretty crazy story. Their house, I actually got to tell a little bit of it at Britton's church about a month ago. Was my parents were just living the wrong life, running from the Lord, running from the cops, everybody. And their house ended up getting raided by a SWAT team in Muncie. And they ended up getting sentenced to prison for 6 years each. But in Indiana, you only have to do half your time. So it was 3 years. And they found God in prison. I mean, and my dad will still tell you to this day, he only started seeking God so he could get out of prison.
Oh, wow.
And what God did with that little bit of heart change of like giving God a little bit, man, God stretched that. And now my dad has been in full-time ministry all my life. My mom wrote a book about their story. And so I grew up in that kind of just knowing their past and going, well, I don't want to do that. So well, how can I not do that and fulfill my dreams and what I want to be? And when I was 12 years old, I was raised in the Word of Faith movement. So Rhema Bible College, Rhema Church in Tulsa, and that kind of movement. And so when I was 12 years old, I went to a Sunday night service at our church, and there was a guest speaker there. And the guest speaker said, "There's a young man in the room that wants to be a preacher someday. That's not wants to be, what is called to be a preacher someday."
Okay.
And is going to preach to people and travel and speak, and that's what the calling's on his life. If that's you today, would you just lift your hand or come up front? Well, I was 12 years old and I was sitting with my buddies, so that wasn't happening.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't going to get up out of my seat, and so on the way home, I looked at my dad and I said, "Dad, he was talking about me," and my dad turned the car around and took me back to the church. And so he turned the car around, took me back to the church, and went up to that guest speaker. And I told the guest speaker that he was talking about me, and he prayed for me right then. And I just knew I was called to preach in some aspect, but didn't really know what that meant. So that's at 12 years old. Obviously lived a full teenage life and traveled with my parents some as they did ministry. Lived in Branson, Missouri for a while, worked for a Christian television show there. And then I ended up doing camera and TV audio. And then I ended up doing what's called Master's Commission, which is a big AG thing and stuff. And so I did Master's Commission for a year.
Which is like it's like a training for young adults.
Yeah,
age.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. It's kind of like no college credits, but it's like that gap year kind of internship thing.
Yep.
And so I did a year of that, of Master's Commission, and ended up leaving Branson after I graduated that and came back to Indiana. Started working for my dad's ministry full time that did school assemblies in the United States. Did that full time with him and just kept going, man, I know that this is what my calling is to be. And I ended up working for almost 6 years at the Fort Wayne Rescue Mission, working with guys that were going through the long-term programming to better their lives, get rid of drug addiction, things like that. So I was in pastoral care there, kind of just walking with the guys as they went through the program. Left there just honestly from burnout in 2020.
Okay.
And at the end of 2020, and I started driving a FedEx truck and was like, I don't know what's next ministry wise. So I'm going to do this because I have 2 young kids and I need to provide, but I'm burnt out and I'm just going to seek God and see what he has for me. I did that for 5 months and was offered a director of marketing for a Christian radio station in Fort Wayne. And so I took it. I was like, I don't even know what this is going to entail, but I know that this is like a stepping stone for what God has. And Pastor Bill was giving me opportunities to speak at LifeBridge on Sunday mornings. And so I would preach on a rotation basically between him and a couple other speakers and would be able to kind of fulfill, my calling in that aspect as I'm kind of waiting for God to show me what's next. Ended up working for Star 88.3 for 1 year and was offered actually halfway through that year, started having conversations with the chief development officer for Destiny Rescue. They were sponsoring some of Star 88.3's events. And he's like, we said, hey, let's get coffee. We ended up having coffee one time. It was our first time meeting in person. And that coffee, we didn't talk about Destiny Rescue. We didn't talk about Star 88.3. We just got to know each other and share our passions. And I shared about how ever since I was 12, felt called to preach and speak in some capacity. And he just was like, hey, that's awesome. We kind of prayed together there. That ended up lasting like 3 hours of just that kind of conversation. 2 days later, I get a text from a mentor of mine. And he said, hey, I don't know what you and his name is Jason. I don't know what you and Jason talked about, but man, he wants to have a conversation with you. He wants to know if I can give him your number. And I said, absolutely. I got a text like the next morning. It was like 7 a.m. in the morning. And it said, hey, enjoyed getting to know you and talk to you. Love what you're doing with Star 88.3. And then he said, I don't want to confuse your journey or anything. However, if you'd be willing to have conversations about what it would look like to be a speaker for Destiny Rescue, I would love to explore that with you. I mean, this is like 6:37 in the morning. I take that text. I run in. My wife's still sleeping. We haven't woken the kids up for school yet. And I'm like, this is it. And she's like, what is that? Like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is it. And that started about 5 months of us getting coffee once a month, just talking about what it would look like. And there still was no guarantee 5 months in that I was even getting a job. And so I just kept knocking on the door. I was like, is there something? Is there, do you know, is there a possibility? And in January of 2022, I got a text from Jason that said, check your email. And I checked my email and there was an offer to be the director of church engagement for Destiny Rescue. And that's kind of all in just a really, really 30,000 foot view of like what's kind of happened in my life. But I've been with Destiny Rescue since January of 2022, so going on 3 years now. And it's been phenomenal. I get the privilege of connecting as the director of church engagement with pastors all over the country, also traveling and speaking at their churches, doing Rescue Sundays on Sunday mornings. Had the privilege of being at Pastor Britton's church and with his congregation just a little bit over a month ago, and seeing rescue take place for kids overseas because of a church here saying, yes, we want to help rescue kids.
Yeah.
And so I get to do that, I get to be a part of helping rescue kids. I get to fulfill my calling of preaching. I get to speak. I get to do, like all these breakout sessions at conferences, whatever it may be. I get to fulfill that part of it. But at the end of the day, I'm like, man, because I did that, kids are finding freedom right now. Kids are being rescued right now because of churches saying, hey, we want to be a part of rescuing kids. How can we do that? So now it's three years in. I absolutely love it. Within those 3 years, I did finish and went through the panel of questions and everything like that for my Foursquare license.
Oh yeah. Congratulations.
So I do. Yeah. Thank you.
You ran the gauntlet and you survived. Good job.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So I'm now
it's
licensed.
No joke. I'm not kidding. It's
yeah, man.
We've taken a few people here through it. It's like,
it's not like one of those internet ones where you pay $10 and they send you something in the mail.
That's right. This is robust. This is, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, I'm like, man, I could have just got the $10 one and started marrying people and doing all that, but
you could have, but anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So just grateful that, like, as a person that is married and has kids and a part of ministry, I'm grateful to be a part of a ministry that allows me to have the freedom to do things like this, to obviously travel and speak at churches, but build relationships with pastors. Some of my best friends now are pastors that I've met through engaging with them and just having conversations with them. I was at Connection this last year, not even as a part of Destiny Rescue. We didn't have a booth, or we weren't one of the vendors at Connection in DC this year. But just by being there and being willing to go up to people and talk to them, I ended up getting a rescue Sunday with a pastor in New Hampshire. That's a Foursquare pastor. And went out there, and I ended up bringing my wife and kids with me. And now they're some of our closest friends. Like, my wife got along so well with his wife. I got along so well with him, and just building those relationships, building those connections. Just extremely grateful that I get to do the calling that God has placed on my heart, but also for an incredible cause as well, and then fulfill the calling of preaching as well.
Yeah. No, I want to put a pin, because we're definitely gonna get back to Destiny Rescue and what that entails and what that means, and
absolutely.
People who are unaware. But I want to go back just a little bit, because it's really interesting. You have, and more, especially as we do this and we talk to people and hear their ministry story, there really is no traditional, I don't even know what that would mean. You know what I mean? Like, what entry point into ministry as it looks, and even has that takes on different expressions within within somebody's calling and journey and that kind of a thing. And I'm curious, so you marked a couple of points. Obviously you come from a broken and traumatic upbringing kind of a thing, been able to see the transformation within that. And then you also marked it as 2020 for a lot of people. I mean, that was a transitionary year for me as well. That was a turning point. I'm curious, maybe connect some of that and how God has also been shaping you as you go through, and how that has, as you have stepped into the calling and seen that really play out in different ways. What are you learning about, ministry as it is within you, but then also how you're able to go, I need a break and I need to figure this out differently. I mean, what has that journey been like for you?
Yeah, for me, I mean, I saw my parents, I was born a year after they got out of prison and all of that, and grew up seeing my parents do bivocational ministry, but also then going into full-time ministry, and us not having a dollar to our name every weekend, and all of that. And then I grew up, like, as I became a teenager and then a young adult, I was seeing all these people that I have known, speak on these stages. And for me, selfishly at the beginning was in my early 20s was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. Like, like when a pastor becomes a pastor of a church for the first time, he's like, oh yeah, like I'm going to preach on Sundays, but that's like not even 10% of your job.
Less
you know
than
what
that.
I mean?
Yeah. 5
less than
maybe.
that, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
So looking at it and going, okay, wow, I need to take a step back and really learn, what does ministry actually entail? It's not just preparing a sermon and getting up there and speaking, but it's also that day to day. What's this look like? And I had that opportunity at the 6 years that I was at the Fort Wayne Rescue Mission. When I was there, I was doing third shift sometimes. I was doing second shift sometimes. I was doing first shift sometimes. I was walking with these guys. I got choked in the lobby one time by a resident that just was having just one of those moments. He was having a moment, and
I would say, gosh, yeah,
it was a bad day.
Yeah,
and so got choked in the lobby there one time. I mean, just all these different aspects of going. When I go to bed at night, I'm like, I still am doing ministry. Like, it's not the ministry that I thought it was going to be when I was a kid. It wasn't the hotels every weekend and speaking at churches and doing these conferences and hanging out with some of your closest friends. And my dad's a Christian musician now. And so like in 2020, at the beginning of 2020, how I ever even met Destiny Rescue the first time was on the Winter Jam tour. My dad was on Winter Jam, and Destiny Rescue was one of the sponsors on Winter Jam. And so I got to go out on the road a little bit, and I had to realize, like, yeah, that's ministry, but that's not what ministry looks like as well. Like, ministry is that one-on-one. Sometimes ministry is that phone call in the evening. I would be on call sometimes at the rescue mission, and because I ended up becoming a supervisor of one of the shifts one time, and would get calls, 11 p.m. of so-and-so came in and is drunk and cussing at us, and he still wants to stay. And I'd have to come in and have conversation with them. And, you have rules, but then you also have a heart for people.
Yeah.
And so you want to find that happy medium of how can I still abide by the rules, but then still help this person that's in need, and try to find that happy medium. That level there is hard, but that's ministry. The ministry that when I was feeling burnout, when I was feeling that, I mean, what I mean by burnout is my compassion tank was empty.
That's good. Okay. Good.
Guys,
you answered my question.
Guys were telling me their gut-wrenching, horrible stories, and I'm sitting there at my desk going, in my head, not saying it out loud, but saying, get over it.
Yeah.
And let's just pick yourself up. Let's go get a job. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is not a healthy area to be in. And so I had some conversations, and I was like, man, it's just time for me to go. It's time for me to go. And so I did, and I went to FedEx, like I said. And so what I did while I was driving a truck is I put one AirPod in while I was driving and delivering packages. I'd listen to podcasts, I'd listen to sermons, I'd listen to worship music. And for me, that was ministry to me.
Yeah.
Because I had been so burnt out. I was like, man, I just need to be fed. I need to be renewed. I need to be rejuvenated in the spirit. I need something tangible from God to show me I'm on the right track. I'm doing okay as a dad. I'm doing okay as a husband. Because when I was burnt out at the rescue mission, I was burnt out in all capacities of my life. That's right. Yeah. Yep. Because it wasn't just because we have a tendency to bring it home as just any aspect of ministry. It's hard to leave it at the door when you are in ministry, because ministry is 24/7 all the time. And so for me is I just need to be rejuvenated in that time. And that was about 5 months. And man, I really felt that. And that was ministry to me. So over those years, and then being at the Star 883, I was like, well, I'm a marketing director. This isn't ministry, but realizing that there's people calling in going, man, the right song at the right time came on, and I heard it, and I decided that I was going to live one more day, or I decided I was going to push through this situation. And I started realizing, okay, this is ministry. oh, so you mean to tell me the guy doing the janitorial work at the church is doing ministry? And I'm like, oh, that's ministry.
Yes.
And you start looking at right. And you start looking at all those and go,
right now.
Yeah, wow. Exactly. And you start looking at all those aspects and going, man, ministry isn't what I thought it was for all those years where I just get on stage, hold a microphone and tell people that Jesus loves them. Mm-hmm. Ministry is the 4 a.m. getting a phone call saying, so-and-so's drunk. Are we going to let him stay or not? Ministry is that phone call you get from a family member that's really going through it. That's ministry. And you're just there to be with them. And so I started to realize. And as I started to go into Destiny Rescue, I was like, oh, I get to go on stage and hold that microphone. But ministry is my conversation with the pastor before getting to that church. How's your church doing? How's your people doing? How's your heart doing? Ministry is at lunch. Ministry is at dinner, saying, how are you and your wife? How are you and your family? And building that trust and building that relationship so that we both can continue to go forth, do the ministry that God has called us to, but also say, hey, like, we're in this together. Like, this is hard, and it's hard doing ministry. And sometimes you do feel that burnout because you're starting to let the situations in the ministry affect your home life. But at one point, especially for those of us that are married and have families, we have to realize our first ministry is our family.
Yeah.
And if we're not taking care of our family, how are we supposed to take care of a flock? How are we supposed to take care of rescuing kids and speaking at these churches? And how are we supposed to do that well and the best to our abilities if we're not doing it at home? Yeah. And so that's something that I've come to the realization that ministry is first and foremost my family. And if I can lead them well, then I can lead what God has given me well. And so that's kind of what I've been learning throughout my life. Yeah. But that right there has just been, man, my first ministry is my family. My second is then to go and do what God has called me to do. Yeah. But I got to lead my family well.
Well, and thank you for sharing all that. Number one, there's a few things I've been thinking as you've been speaking, and just maybe start where you ended. I've often found that my home life, family life is a great barometer of how I'm actually doing in ministry and how that links to everything else. And if that's, it doesn't mean that everything is perfect all the time, because it definitely isn't. We just talked about the expectation versus reality, right? That, I know when something is off or when I am off or whatever. And that is a great barometer with that. But I want to speak to too, I drove back to one of the words you used to describe yourself in persistent. And I think of everything you just said, how even in your spot of like, I'm done. I've got no compassion. I mean, I'm burnt out. I mean, it's 2020, so we can give it some of that, but we can't give it all the credit. Obviously, we still put ourselves in some of that spaces. And instead of saying, I'm just ejecting, period, it really sounds like you continue to pursue what ministry could be and how it could be different, and you maybe even reimagined in some ways. And so hats off to you for, the self-awareness, but also the persistence within that to continue to move towards healthier and even allowing God to reshape your definition of ministry. I love that. I love it.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Thanks, man.
So I'm curious then within that, if you could, and you kind of did this, but I wonder if you could maybe distill all of that now. And this is kind of the springboard maybe for further conversation. But as far as if you were to define ministry, or somebody to ask you, what is ministry? Based on everything you just said, how would you pull that out?
Yeah, no, that's good, man. Well, a funny part of that would always be what I always heard when I was growing up. My dad would always say it. How do you spell ministry? Is WORK. That's how you spell ministry. Because it's not just clear written on a whiteboard. It's really not, there's different aspects that you don't even realize. So what is ministry to me now? Obviously in what I get to do with Destiny Rescue, we rescue kids, but for me is ministry is getting one more person closer to Jesus than I did yesterday.
Okay.
And ministry to me is talking to, just being open to have the conversation about who Jesus is with somebody.
Yeah.
Because if that's how we define ministry, then anybody listening, anybody in this world can be a part of ministry.
Yeah.
If they define it by just telling one person about Jesus that day and just sharing the good news, sharing the gospel with them, then that's ministry right there. You could be a ministry as a truck driver. You can be a ministry as a school teacher, as a fast food worker. You could be in ministry in all aspects. Any career you have, you can still be in ministry by how you talk about Jesus, how you treat people. Obviously, Jesus says that people will know us by they will know that we are followers of Jesus by how we treat them and how we act. And so that right there is ministry, and how I would define it now is exactly what I just said.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Well, I love when we can simplify something and yet it's not simplistic. It really is profound. And that's a great way of saying that. That's good. I like it. So we've talked, you've mentioned it and I said we would get back to it,
Yeah.
Your current ministry, where you're at, or at least the focus, obviously outside of your family, is with an organization called Destiny Rescue. And I looked it up on the website, so I'm going to read this verbatim. You probably already know this.
Yeah, absolutely.
But dedicated to rescuing children from sexual exploitation and human trafficking and equipping them to stay free. So give us some of the history. Obviously, this is still somewhat new to you, but obviously you're very immersed within it. Give us the history of this crucial ministry.
Yeah, so we were founded, Destiny Rescue was founded over 20 some years ago, very early 2000s, by a man named Tony Kerwin. He's Australian, from Australia. He was visiting Thailand and overheard a conversation about being able to purchase a child, and it broke his heart. And so he said, man, we got to do something about that. And we're going to start this organization called Destiny Rescue. So it started Destiny Rescue, and obviously took some years of, cultivating it and getting it together. We started actually keeping track of rescues in 2011. And since 2011, Destiny Rescue has rescued over 17,700 individuals.
Oh, wow.
Since 2011. And so that in the areas that we actually rescue are across 3 different regions, which would be Latin America, Africa, and Asia. And so across those 3, we are in currently 12 plus countries where we are actively rescuing. We have teams at each one of those locations that we're in that are actively rescuing on a daily basis. And so you have those 12 countries that we rescue in, and then you have 3 funding nations. So 3 nations that raise funds and awareness about Destiny Rescue, which is Destiny Rescue USA, which is who I work for, Destiny Rescue Australia, and Child Rescue New Zealand. Those are the 3 funding nations that basically fund Destiny Rescue International. And so Destiny Rescue International is the one that's doing the rescues. They're project managers and country managers and teams on the ground in those countries. And so in Africa, rescue looks different than it does in Thailand or any of those other. The 3 countries we're at in Africa are Kenya, Zimbabwe, and Uganda. I've had the privilege of going and seeing our teams in Uganda and Zimbabwe, and rescue there looks different than it does in any of our other countries because it's kids in those countries in Africa, kids selling themselves to feed their families.
Okay. Wow.
And then you have in Thailand or Cambodia, the Philippines, it's actual pimps and traffickers that are selling children and selling them for hours at a time or whatever it may be for money, and knowing that those children will be exploited and they will be trafficked in those situations, abused in awful, awful situations. And so Destiny Rescue knows that we say all the time, like when the church rises up, kids find freedom. And we tell the churches all over the world, we say, hey, look, we know that there is at least 1 million children. We know there's millions of people, but at least 1 million children are trapped in exploitation or trafficking around the world. And we're grateful that we've gotten to be a part of rescuing over 17,700. but there's still over 1 million waiting. Yeah. And so that's a big task. And we're grateful for the other organizations that are rescuing as well. Destiny Rescue partners with over 100 like-minded organizations across those countries we rescue in. So we never want to go in an area and reinvent the wheel. If there's another organization doing something really well, we want to partner alongside them and help make it happen even better, or whatever we can to do to help. Yeah. And so that we can just partner alongside them, and so that they can take care of that aspect of freedom or rescue or whatever it may be. But we, like I said, we partner with over 100 like-minded organizations. And so that's like a overview of who Destiny Rescue is. And I'm definitely down to talk about the rescues and what rescues look like and all that.
That's actually, that was my next question. And I'm not trying to make light of something, but my context is it's Liam Neeson, and you send him in because he has a very specific set of skills.
Exactly.
And I will find you. But I would imagine, and maybe he is involved. I don't know, but it's nothing like that. Right. So when you say you're rescuing, and obviously I love it, you said it's going to be different contexts. So, but what does that look like? What does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I got to go out on rescue in Africa, in Uganda, and we got to be a part of rescuing 7 different kids. And that rescue is going right into the communities. So going into their villages, going into their communities, there's an informant in that area that's saying, hey, that girl or that boy has been selling themselves. And so rescue there looks like we have social worker and a rescue agent. That's what's really cool is in those countries are native to that country. So those rescue agents are native to that country, and they're going in and they're asking questions. They're talking to them and saying, tell us about your life and, what's been going on. How are you coming up with money, and getting the facts out. Okay. They're selling themselves to feed their family. They're doing this multiple times a night. How can we help them? And then we offer them a freedom plan, which is what we put into place after they've been rescued, where they are able to have a safe place, learn how to be a hairstylist, tailors, different things like that. I have a shirt hanging in my closet that 2 girls made in Uganda that were learning how to be tailors. It's way too small for me. They thought I was a lot smaller than I actually am. But I still have it. And, it's just a prized possession, because it's like, man, like 2 girls that were rescued by Destiny Rescue from really awful situations are now free, and they've made this shirt for me. And so those kids the rescues are right on the streets. We don't have to deal with any pimps or law enforcement or anything like that. It's rescue right on the street because they're selling themselves. Now, when you go to Thailand and Cambodia and the Philippines and other countries like that, rescue is a lot different, where we have rescue agents going undercover in brothels, going into brothel bars, and they're acting as if they are, people that are going to customers, basically.
Yeah.
And so they're having to say things they don't want to say. They're having to be like, oh, that looks like a young girl. How old is she? Look, I just want young ones. Things like that, which are awful things to say. Right. But they can't break their cover in those situations. So they're going undercover, because what they're trying to do is they're trying to build a case. Because I will tell you this, every country that we're in, we have been welcomed into that country. We have MOUs that are signed agreements allowing us to be in those countries to help rescue kids, to work with law enforcement. So we work with their law enforcement, their version of the FBI, and we build cases for them. So our founder has always said, I feel called to the most vulnerable locations that don't have resources. And so that we could be that resource for them. Yeah. And so we're building that information, taking it to the local law enforcement or their version of the FBI, building that case. Then they plan a raid. And then in that raid, they allow our rescue agents to come in with them and rescue the kids while they arrest the traffickers. Wow. So whether that's in brothels, right on the streets, whether that's in meetups where they plan like this party at a hotel and a trafficker brings 20 girls and we rescue all 20 of those girls and that trafficker is arrested by the law enforcement. But we deal with the boots on the ground, actual rescues. We don't get to deal with the justice side of it. There's other organizations that we're very grateful for and have, done things with in the past that deal with the justice side of things. We're the boots on the ground. Let's get these kids out of there, get the traffickers arrested, and let's get these kids we either entrust them to another like-minded Christian organization that's doing something really well in that area, or we entrust them to, if that government of that country has a certain law where the government takes over. So we entrust them to the government or a like-minded Christian organization, reunite with their family if their family is a safe place. So finding out, we have social workers that will go in, making sure that their family is a safe location to live in, and making sure it wasn't their family that sold them in the first place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so then if we can reunite them with their family, we definitely want to do that. And then the third option is what we call enroll into the Freedom Plan, which the Freedom Plan is unique to each girl and each boy that are in it. Whether, we address things such as a safe place, because right now there's over 1 million kids going to bed at night to work instead of sleep. So making sure that they have a safe place. So giving them a safe place, urgent health needs. So imagine a 14-year-old girl getting rescued. She's been trafficked since she was 7 years old. The amount of health needs that girl needs are insane. Economic empowerment and daily food, vocational educational training, trauma resilience training, and then the most important is spiritual growth. So they're learning about Jesus through that whole process. But we don't believe that they can get true spiritual growth and spiritual freedom unless we address those things while we're teaching them about Jesus. And so they go through that program and then they graduate, and they can either start their own. We give them supplies at graduation. We give them supplies to start their own hair salon, or we give them a sewing machine and materials to start their own tailoring company, or they can go and work for an already established salon or tailor in that area. Yeah. And there's also other aspects. There's some locations that are teaching these kids how to make floor polish and soaps and different things like that so that they can sell them. There's some that's learned how to be, work at a coffee shop and a tea over there. It's a lot of tea more than coffee. So a lot of tea shops, things like that. But learning how to stay free, equipping, that's that part of that mission statement that you read, that equipping them to stay free aspect. Yeah. And so we've had the privilege of being able to rescue over 17,700 individuals and either entrust, reunite, or enroll are the three aspects afterwards.
Man, that's crazy. That's, and I'm a little bit, it's a real easy, I think we do this with a lot of things, but it's real easy for people to hear that and to detach completely, right? Like I don't see it, or that's a far off place, that kind of a thing. But then when you humanize it, like you've just done, like you said, the amount of, restoration, rehabilitation, whatever you want to call it, that's going to be involved with these kids. It's not just pulling them out, but it's also getting into that space. That's amazing. But it's also, I think I'm sitting here as a parent, as we're, you're thinking and how that hits, differently.
Exactly.
When you think of that, kids, my kids' age, right, and younger, having to experience this kind of a thing, it's just terrible. I've got nowhere else to say.
Exactly. And I do want to say, like, the rescue aspect, there might be some people listening going, well, why don't they rescue in the States? And so I just want to kind of just address that real quickly.
Absolutely.
And the reason being is we go where we're welcomed. We have, like I said, MOUs that are signed with these countries. We respect those countries. We think very highly of those countries that we're in, and they're beautiful too as well. But our founder, being from Australia, was visiting Thailand. He has said ever since the beginning, I feel called to the most vulnerable locations that don't have resources. So we're going to go where we're called, and we're going to go to places that don't have the resources that necessarily the United States would have. And so that's where our rescues are taking places in countries like that, Dominican Republic. And then there is another aspect of rescue that I did not mention, which is our border rescue. It's not the border that everybody's thinking about. It is the border of Nepal, where we have over 20 border stations along the Nepali border, with female rescue agents at each one of those border stations rescuing right on the border. So they've been given all authority to stop, question, and rescue in time if they feel the need to. And so they're rescuing right on the border, especially so that trying to prevent kids getting trafficked across border, of course, because, obviously once across the borders anywhere, if you get trafficked, the likelihood of that person ever getting home in that situation does not look very high. So we're doing our best to be able to stop it right at the border in Nepal. And like I said, we're in Cambodia, Philippines, Thailand, Dominican Republic, countries like that as well. So, but that border rescue is very important in the work that we do as well.
I'm curious from the leader who's involved with this perspective, because one of the thoughts I've had, and maybe you can share your own personal experience or that of which, those, like you said, the boots on the ground kind of a thing. I would imagine it's a pretty taxing, probably more taxing than most occupations, for sure, ministry, because of the level of depravity that you are involved in within that, and all of the things that come with that. So how have you, or maybe as you've worked with other leaders within this, how are they able to navigate that personally and not hate humanity? You know what I mean?
No, I get it, man. I get it. There's stories that I hear where you just get mad, of course, right? But we're grateful to work for an organization like Destiny Rescue internationally and the funding nations that obviously, these stories are very heart-wrenching, very hard to hear. Some of them very, very much hard to hear. There's still stories that I have from Africa that I've only shared with my wife, and just things that you see and hear. It's just awful. Yeah. But we're grateful to work for an organization that truly takes our personal and mental health very seriously. So Destiny Rescue partners with some Christian counseling agency that offers us anytime we need it. We can set up an appointment and get the help and care that we need to be able to address that. And then there's a lot of pastors that work for the organization as well that are just good at listening, and we can all talk to each other when we're going through that thing. So Destiny Rescue really takes care of the employees, the rescue agents as well, and making sure that their mental health and their physical health is taken care of. Because like you said, you hear some of the darkest things in the world. Yeah. There's stories that I get in my email from Destiny Rescue about new rescues that we've done, and there'll be a new story, and you're just thinking, how in the world could a 12-year-old girl endure all of that in a lifetime that in my lifetime of over 30 years, have not even close to endured that, And so it is heart-wrenching, but grateful for an organization that does not only care about the kids we rescue, but also about the people that rescue the kids. And so
that's good.
And Destiny Rescue does that very, very well.
That's good. Yeah. That's so important. And not everybody has the level of self-awareness, even what we just talked about with you a little bit earlier, to be able to go, hey, this is affecting me in a way that is not good. And so, that's encouraging to hear that's available for those that are engaging in this, just as much as those that you're trying to rescue as well.
Absolutely.
That's good. There's a stat on the Destiny Rescue website that I wanted to highlight, and then maybe bounce from that to a little bit different discussion, perhaps, of how people can engage within that. But it says that 1 in 150 individuals is a victim of human trafficking today. So like that's crazy. So it says, or nearly 50 million people today. So approximately 3.3 million of these individuals are children. And so I highlight that one because I hear that and I go, that sounds pretty overwhelming. And not all of us can, be a part or even maybe even called in ministry to that specific one. So how does somebody, especially someone who's not directly involved or engaged like you are, where do they start when it comes to helping combat this kind of thing?
Absolutely. So I say this in churches all over the place, it'd be nice if we all could just go and jump on a plane and go rescue kids, but that's just not feasible. And a lot of us are called to different aspects of ministry, whether that be homelessness or addiction ministries or, marital issues ministry, whatever that may be, right? And so everybody's got a heart for something, but knowing that there's going to be somebody listening to this or somebody that's in your church that says, you know what, man, I really have a heart for this. And what can I do? How can I be a part? And so we have different avenues. We have an advocacy program where people can be advocates for Destiny Rescue, and we're very grateful for them, where they start their own fundraisers, they start their own awareness projects for Destiny Rescue. But Destiny Rescue USA, being a funding and awareness nation, is a lot of just the awareness side of it and going, okay, let's fund, a rescue or fund to rescue a child or fund a raid or whatever that may look like. So when I went to Pastor Britton's church was, hey, let's rescue a child today. And so we did what we called a rescue a child offering, where it says, hey, it takes $1,500 to rescue one child. For Destiny Rescue International, to rescue one child, it takes $1,500. So let's rescue a child today. And we rescued a child that day. And then you go to some churches that, man, they're like, the pastor sets a goal of rescuing 5, 6, 7 kids, and they surpass that. Then there's a church that I was actually just at a couple weeks ago. I said, hey man, we don't really know. We just, we want to rescue as many as we can. He's like, I don't know, 10. And I'm like, that's an incredible goal. Let's shoot for it. And ended up rescuing 18 kids. And just one Sunday.
Oh, wow.
And just said, people in their church said, hey, we want to give and give and give. And they ended up bringing in enough to rescue over 18 kids. So that's how churches can partner with is us doing these rescue a child offerings. We also have another aspect called Rescue Partner, which if you've ever been to a Christian concert or something, you've seen these ministries that have like the sponsor a child packets and things like that. We don't do a sponsor a child because we're rescuing one child and we're rescuing another one, and that one's going into our freedom plan or being reunited with their family or being entrusted to another organization or whatever. So Rescue Partner is a gift of any amount per month. You are helping rescue a different child every single month. And then you get updates from Destiny Rescue about how many rescues have taken place. And so you're seeing different aspects like that as well.
Yeah. And we'll link to the Destiny Rescue website in the show notes, but people can connect easily through that or connect to you, which we'll leave your info as well.
Absolutely. And the church thing is churches partnering with Destiny Rescue. Like I said earlier, when a church rises up, kids find freedom. And so what I did with Brenton was we called it a Rescue Sunday, and that's what my primary focus is building relationships with churches and then doing Rescue Sundays. A Rescue Sunday is a Sunday where the church decides they're going to highlight the issue of trafficking, but it's not a Sunday. And I think Brenton can attest to this. It's not a Sunday where we just share statistics and go, look how awful this is. There's also a message that is wrapped around that and says, hey, like, this is awful, but what kind of freedom are you needing? What do you need rescued from? Different things like that. So we combine that together and we call them Rescue Sunday. And what I love about it is absolutely at no cost to the church to bring me in or one of my coworkers in to do a Rescue Sunday. Destiny Rescue, takes all that cost up front because we know there's going to be somebody in that congregation that's going to have a heart for the issue of trafficking and want to do something about it. So Rescue Sundays are like, in my opinion, are the best options for churches to get that initial engagement, is saying, hey, let's take a Sunday, whether that be in January, February, whatever month, and say, hey, let's take a Sunday. We're going to bring Jared in, or bring in Scott, or one of my other awesome coworkers, and say, hey, we're going to bring them in. We're going to talk about the issue of trafficking, but it's not just talk about it. They're going to still preach a message on hope and freedom, and something that's going to really give life to the congregation, but also activate their hearts to do something about the issue of trafficking. So that's what I did when I came to Muncie, was did that Rescue Sunday, did a message as well. And like I said, what I love about it is it's offering that to the church and saying, hey, pastor, this costs nothing to you. This takes nothing from your budget. It's just offering this Sunday, and then saying, hey, we're going to do a Rescue a Child offering to rescue as many kids as we can. And we're also going to ask for rescue partners where people can sign up and give monthly so that they can stay engaged with the mission and they can continually help rescue kids every single year. So Rescue Sunday is really where it's at.
Yeah.
I would say for us here, Chad, you touched on it earlier, in just that, like, we can become detached or oblivious. We know that trafficking, that exploitation, that happens, but maybe not to the extent that it's happening. And so for us to I'm aware of what was going on, and bringing that and just putting it before people, going, you know what, we need to be more sensitive to the world around us, and have eyes to see. It's not just like we feel so insulated here in America so often. So just getting the awareness and putting that out there was beneficial to our congregation. We've had people been asking about, like, okay, what's going on? I know that one of our staff members has been putting up the slides from Destiny Rescue since we've had you here, just to keep it on the forefront of our minds. And it's created a culture that I think is more sensitive to the things going on around us. And it gives us eyes not just to see what's going on overseas, but even hear what's going on in our own area. And it has helped and been beneficial all the way around. So
it's good.
Yep.
Amen.
That's good. Well, so this has been illuminating in a lot of ways. And I know, I think I know that it's going to inspire others to want to partner more and to do that. And we're going to make ways to do that available so people can see that as well within the episode show notes. But as we transition out, especially as we've been talking about some of the hard things, what are some of the things that are encouraging you, or that you're finding inspiration in, or that you're really looking forward to within ministry, maybe with your specific one, or even just in general as you move forward?
Yeah, I think just this year we're celebrating. Last year we ended up rescuing 3,352 individuals. This year we're going to surpass that rescue number. So we're really excited about that. I think what gives me hope, though, and just makes me go, man, I really love doing this, is the freedom that takes place after the rescue. You have to hear traumatizing stories and just really, really, awful things. But man, at the end of the day, freedom took place for that individual. Yeah. Freedom took place for that child. And so I continue to rest on the fact of freedom and going, man, freedom is there. Freedom is on the other side of your situation. Freedom is on the other side of the rescue, and rescue makes freedom possible. And so I think that's even in our spiritual life, right? I mean, Jesus, Jesus rescued us so that we could experience the freedom that he paid for, you know? And so I'm grateful for that freedom. But when I hear the stories about these girls and hear about the rescue numbers, is go, man, that's awful. However, the freedom that they're going to be experiencing, especially when they graduate the Freedom Plan. I say this in all the churches I go to. The kids that go through the Freedom Plan, they're learning the difference between being marketed by man and marked by God.
Oh, that's good.
And they're learning they're learning who God says they are. They're learning about who they are in Jesus. And that's a beautiful sight to see.
Yeah.
So a lot of us at Destiny Rescue, we have to read the emails and see the stories and pictures of girls that have just been rescued. And it's like, oh man, they're about to experience so much freedom. And so we sit in the excitement of freedom rather than in the depressing, this is what they need rescued from. We decide to just continue to look at the freedom. And so that's what I'm doing in my own personal life too, is just middle of this kitchen remodel that we didn't necessarily want or need or anything like that. And all of that, and dealing with, sicknesses and our kids being sick or whatever it may be, in whatever situation anybody is listening to that you're going through right now, and you're listening to this in whatever situation you're going through, there is freedom on the other side of your situation. And so that's what I'm excited for, is to experience the freedom that I'm walking through the valley for. We read, obviously, here all the time, Psalm 23, that even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for I know that you are with me, your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Like, that's what I'm excited for, getting out of that valley because of his rod and staff comforting me the whole time.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that. I'm excited for that next mountaintop, because there can only be a valley if there's two mountains on either one on each side.
Yeah.
There's only a valley if there's another mountain. And so you're only going through a valley because you have to go through that to get to the next mountaintop.
That's good.
So that's what I'm excited for this year. I'm excited for God to continue to bring freedom. I know he's going to continue to rescue kids, and I'm going to continue to be able to be in churches and just have relationships with pastors, and excited for all of that. I'm excited for what God is going to do in 2025, in not only from Destiny Rescue's aspect, but also Foursquare's aspect. I'm excited as I continue to build relationships in that. And then I'm just excited for years down the road, what God is putting on my wife and I's heart, of what we eventually want to do and be a part of. Just excited about that as well. So
that's awesome.
It's going to be a great year. I'm super grateful to start the year with you guys, and just count you both as friends. I haven't been able to spend much time with you, Chad, but the times that we have been able to hang out, we've laughed, and
we can change that. So, no, that'll be good. Yeah. Thank you so much. I agree. And man, I just want to point out, I love that word picture of you're in the valley, but you're only there because you're headed up to the next mountain. And that's not a name it, claim it kind of a thing. That's just a fact that we have, and we freedom on the other side of that.
Exactly.
That situation, that valley is so encouraging, and what a great word heading into this new season and new year. Jared, thank you. Thank you for your time. Yeah. This has been great. This has been such a chill conversation. I can tell you, I know Brenton likes to add his no chill sometimes, but I think we kept him at bay. You disarmed him. Good job.
I did.
Yeah.
Can't make much jokes when you're talking about stuff that we talked about today.
That's true. That's true. Unless you're sliding in Liam Neeson, then it's totally appropriate.
Yes, exactly. Then it's fine and appropriate. And
I'm glad you said that. I won't get in trouble. Yes. Well, thank you once again. Bless you. And we're looking forward to see what is next with you and Destiny's Rescue.
All right.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Well, thank you for joining us again for another episode of Ministry Without Hating It. We hope it's helped you take a step further towards loving what you do through the wisdom of others. If you'd like to connect with our guests further, we've made ways to do so available in the episode show notes. And if you'd like to connect with us further, support the podcast, or sign up for any show updates, just go to withouthatingit.com to get started. And don't forget to subscribe to Ministry Without Hating It wherever it is that you get your podcast, so you don't miss out on our future episode releases. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.